Happy Monday, everybody. Another week, another start. And already we're into controversy this week. Huge controversy, which we're going to discuss with my good pal. You know him, you love him. The king of comedy, the king of New Malden. Ladies and gentlemen, Neil Long.
I don't seem to remember anything particularly controversial happening. What's happened, buddy?
Well, first of all, how are you, Neil Long?
Good, thank you. Yes, I was doing a bit of comedy last night. Tried out some new stuff. The painful trying out of new material.
Explain to people, then I want to get on to what's happened, and then I want to talk to you about something that's really bugged a lot of people. Here's your buddy, Robert Van Buren. There he is.
Hey, RBB.
Explain what it's like trying out new material, because it's hard, isn't it?
Sometimes you think something's going to be funny.
Yeah.
You might be with your friends down the pub all laughing, and you think, "Oh my god, that's funny! I've got to tell it." But does it work on stage? And sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't. But you don't know until you try. So I've got three piles. I've got a hard no, if you like, red no.
Yeah.
I've got amber, middle pile, which is got potential but needs some work, and then hell yes, which is green.
Doing it in a pub is a big mistake, because everything's, you're jolly, you're relaxed. The hardest thing is when I was getting wound up for my one-man shows and for when I did the Edinburgh Fringe, I had two brilliant writer comedians who said, let's come round and do it. And I had to stand in my living room and perform the show to these two who just sat making notes. And I also did exactly the same thing with Sam Kane and Linda Lusardi, who were fantastically helpful. But I've got to tell you, there is very little more embarrassing in the world than standing there like a lemon, talking to two people who are sitting there stony-faced, making notes.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're not enjoying it, but they're being
really,
really professional. And it's hard. That is so hard,
I think we're just all envious that you know Linda Lusardi.
No, Linda, since our days at Capital, since 84, 85.
Yeah, your little black book is one of the best in the business.
Well, I don't know why people say that. Joe Good on BBC London always says that. I don't know why she believes it. It's interesting. Linda's absolutely. They're so nice, and they turned up unexpectedly in Edinburgh to support me and be there in the show. And they just walked in, and I was like, "Oh my God, here they are!" And it was lovely. It was absolutely lovely. John Yates. Hi, Ross and Neil. How are you doing? We're okay. We're okay in these crazy times. And Robert's saying hello to Liz Saul. Right, marvelous, like two-way family favourites.
So what's the controversy, dude?
Here's what I want to discuss with you, and I really want to bounce it off you, and I want to bounce it on everybody watching all over the world, is this. Today, the news was released that they fired Steve Allen from LBC.
Fired
him. No explanation. No, it's worse. So he's gone, and apparently they've expunged all his past shows. This is what I'm hearing. If it's inaccurate to some degree, so be it. However, what is not inaccurate is that Steve Allen has gone from LBC, one of their most popular presenters. I'm not here to talk about other radio stations. They can do what the hell they like. LBC, part of Global, is it not? Am I going mad?
Yes.
Part of Global, which is all Ashley Tabor and all that gang, who we used to work for a million years ago. And the reason they've got rid of him, this is what I want to talk about. I don't care what happens to LBC any more than they care what happens to Men's Radio Station and The Daily Show. Let's be brutally honest about it. What I do care about is revisionism. Stalinist revisionism. Censorship. They didn't like the fact that he what can I say? He misgendered Sam Smith. Misgendered.
And he was fired for that.
I don't even know where to start with. I don't even know where to start unpacking, hi friend. I don't know where to start unpacking this. But the point is this. Coming out of it are so many different strands. It's not specifically about Steve Allen. It's about the fact that he's been cancelled. And
for
yet,
one comment. For one
well,
comment.
no, it's obviously the litany of comments because people don't like that type. No, people do like it. He's hugely popular, and anybody smart like Talk TV or anybody like that would just go and grab him and bring along his huge retinue of listeners and go to LBC. I mean, I was on. Let me run this by you, Neil, because you're a very seasoned broadcaster. I mean, we'll come back to the whole censorship thing, but this is in censorship. On Saturday, yeah, Saturday afternoon, I was invited. Did I want to be on Talk TV again?
Right.
So I said, sure, yeah. With a lady, I'd be absolutely honest, I can't remember her name, Claudia. Can't remember her surname. I'd never heard of her before, but it was nice to do it. Nice to do a daytime show. All right.
Okay.
The subject of the show was, should Roald Dahl be rewritten?
Oh, okay. I was ranting about this.
No, precisely. So I started to talk about it, and suddenly, and I'm having a conversation like you and I are having a conversation now, and suddenly the lady who's hosting the show, and it's her show, it's not my show, I'm a guest, I totally understand. I've been in this game a long time.
Yeah.
Says, I'm very, very sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I really must apologize for that language. This is a daytime show, and I'm terribly sorry if anybody was offended. I'm thinking,
what language?
The hell? So I'm thinking, well, whoa. I mean, I'm on here. It's our radio station. We'll do what the hell we want, right? Within reason. I'm not going to slander anybody or libel anybody. But when I'm on Radio London or on Talk TV or whatever it might be, or LBC or whatever, I will abide by the rules of broadcasting. Of course I will. I'm not stupid.
What was this terrible
nor
crime?
do I want to be
said?
nor do I want to be rude to the host of the show.
No.
Hostess.
Of course, no, you're a consummate professional. Absolutely.
Well, it would be wrong, it would be rude, and why would I do that? And
all agreed.
I'm sitting there and I said, I'm so sorry. What have I said? And don't you worry about what you said, came the reply. So I'm thinking, okay, so I'm just going to plow on. And I said, well, I won't. I just plowed on.
Yeah,
and then on Twitter, everyone was fine. She was fine. I was fine. The other person speaking was fine. Everyone enjoyed it. Apparently, I said, could we stop dicking around with literature? That was my phrase.
Is that
dicking
all?
around? That was it. Dicking around. Now, with the greatest will in the world, I didn't know that was an offensive. I'm being serious. I'm not being disingenuous. Why is that an offensive phrase?
Well, if you just said,
tell me I'm wrong, please.
Well, no. If you just said effing around, I could understand on daytime. On here, borderline. But your show on here, if you said it, it wouldn't offend me. But some people,
and we're all over 21, and there we go.
Well, exactly. The phrase "dicking around" is not, in my opinion, a rude phrase.
I don't think it is. I genuinely don't think it was. And I wasn't trying to, I'm not Russell Brand. I'm not trying to shock people.
No.
I'm just doing a job. And I thought, wow, you're doing a formal apology. And apparently then people wrote to me, and I didn't know, because it's also like this, so you can hear it and see it. Apparently my screen went all blank and fuzzy while she was busy apologizing, which kind of made people focus on that. I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned, because no one's ever had to apologize. And I started this in 1984. 1984. No one's ever. And I'm thinking, do you know what? I bet that was someone just in your earpiece going,
Yes, people can be a bit overly careful, overly shockable. And I think if we over sanitize things, number one, it becomes very, very bland. And number two, I don't agree with, dicking around with old literature. I think it should be taught that it was written in a particular context, in a particular time.
Well, precisely.
And I found this on there this morning, and my wonderful radio wife at Radio Jackie, Nikki Patrick, she said, well,
she's very charming. I met her at your party, and it was
she's a lovely
I've never met her before, but she was delightful.
Incredibly talented broadcaster. She's brilliant. But she has a particularly unique point of view on things, which is interesting. And she said you could use it as a teaching tool. Yes, here's what we used to say. We don't do that anymore. And it can be comparative, it can be interesting. But trying to sanitize these things,
It was what the
It
example
just doesn't work. The other one this morning that there's activists trying to get rid of the Churchill dog. No, him.
Well, screw
Because
them.
they're saying
Screw them.
sales
How
of
dare they? How
flat-faced
dare
dogs
they?
are going up. But
How
it's
dare
not
they?
even a real bloody dog. It's a CGI. It's a computer-generated animation, and they want to get rid of it. It's not real.
Well, they don't. And neither of these people real. They're just narcissists. They're raving narcissists. Look at me. Look at me. What am I going to be offended about next? Here's the thing. See what you think of this, Neil. This is why I was so keen to bounce this off you.
No, this is an interesting combo.
Because the example I gave is like you watch Shakespeare on TV or something, and you go, "What a blooming nerve! He's writing on parchment using a quill pen, using a quill on parchment. Why isn't he using an iPhone? Because, you dummy, they didn't have iPhones then. That's what they used: parchment and quill. That's how it was." It's the same with history. You can't rewrite history, whether you like it or whether you don't like it. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And if we don't learn from history, you're never going to learn anything at all. Anything.
Exactly. And if you sanitize it, there's nothing to learn from. It annoyed me because Roald Dahl was an absolute magical, and I mean magical, part of my childhood.
Really?
Him and a couple of other authors, him and C.S. Lewis, actually, before C.S. Lewis wrote his book on Christianity, which was awful in my opinion. But
all went a bit bonkers.
But his stories about Narnia. Actually, there's a really interesting story about C.S. Lewis and Narnia and Christianity, which I'll tell you in a minute. But when we get off
it's just
the subject slightly.
See, this is the thing.
And to interfere with that seems wrong.
This whole thing about I'm not a Roald Dahl fan. Be quite frank with you, I thought he was anti-Semitic. Well, not because I find it.
Did you say
he played no part in my growing up. This is just me.
Did you say anti-Semitic? Did I hear you right?
He was anti-Semitic. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was very anti-Semitic, and he was also. What also came out. Now, this was the argument, and again, I want to bounce it off you and everybody watching and listening around the world. In his original, the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, with Willy Wonka and made into various terrific films, etc.
Gene Wilder was in one.
Gene Wilder and then Johnny Depp subsequently. The Oompa Loompas, hold on to your hat, everybody, were originally black pygmies. I'm not making it up. So the Oompa Loompas were originally black pygmies who couldn't speak, didn't have proper language skills. So the publishers then went back to the author, Roald Dahl, and said, "No, you can't have that. That is way too strong." So clearly they discussed it and they stopped being, God's sake, black pygmies and were made into the Oompa Loompas that we all know and love.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on Talk TV, the argument was, well, you see, he was already being censored. And I went, said the host.
Hang on, now they're being changed into gender neutral Oompa Loompas.
Oh, for Christ's sake. Well,
no, they are. I thought that's what you were going to go on and say.
No. Anyway, so my point is this, right?
Sorry.
So the host says, "Oh, no, Roald Dahl was already being censored years ago." I said, No. You are missing the point. When an author writes a book, there will always be to and fro between the author and the publisher. And the publisher will make changes. And the author can say, yes, I'm going to agree to these changes because I want my book published, or go to hell, I'm not having it, and no changes will take place. But the point was, it's a dialogue between the author and the publisher. Roald Dahl is dead. He's been dead for many years, right? So he's not having that dialogue. This is a one-sided decision. And that was the point that the host on Talk TV didn't understand. There's a world of difference between a work in progress that gets changed, as my book got changed, and you can either take the choice, accept the changes, or say, no, I'm not accepting the changes. That's up to you as a writer.
But do these people think, the people that are making the most noise about this,
Mm.
because another friend of mine made a really good point. People my friend Annette, if she's listening, and she said, sometimes the people that do the complaining, number one, they're getting cross on behalf of someone else, and number two, they haven't even really heard or read the thing they're complaining about. They just hear a kind of trigger word and then take to the keyboard and become keyboard warriors, but without really knowing what they're talking about. It's a reaction rather than a response.
Look at this from Asa in New York State. I was recently a guest expert on the Canadian CBC, which I'm presuming is radio. I don't know. Was it TV? One of the two. They sent me a long. They sent me a long letter beforehand explaining what they permitted and what would not be permitted in this broadcast. Well, Canada under Trudeau can stuff it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Asa Don Brown, it's quite funny if you look up the Ofcom regulations on the swear words, because there's the list of all the swear words, what you can say and what you can't say at various times of day. So it starts with, the ones I can say on here, like sod and crap and bloody and that sort of thing. And then they go up in gradients. It's almost a comedy skit waiting to happen when you get to strong ones. It's very, very funny. I wouldn't do it on here because it's a bit too rude even for here. Yeah.
Well, it's like the George Carlin, the words you can't. George Carlin, the classic routine he did about the words you are not allowed to say. And I did make the point. I said, look, they're just words. They're words on a page. They're not going to jump off the paper, put a 357 Magnum to your head and blow your brains out. They're just words. You can choose to be offended or not choose. You can just say, I don't care. Get on with it. I've got other things to worry about.
And part of that was how they talked back then, probably. And you could learn from that. For example, Aunt Sponge in Roald Dahl's James and the Giant Peach. Aunt Sponge was fat. Can't say fat anymore. So Aunt Sponge is enormous.
But people are fat. This is the problem. There's a wonderful vocal coach I know called T. Green. He says, look at that. He says, I got a weight problem. It says medical condition. I said, what's the matter, T? I thought he was serious. He says, I got an overactive knife and fork. And I just thought, why can't you take responsibility? If you're fat, you're fat. It's not. It's like you're overweight. That's fair enough. I weighed myself this morning. I know I've got to lose a few pounds. Okay. It's not the end of the world. It's my decision.
I know we've had a media full
self-censor.
Full of fat shaming and all that sort of thing, and I know people that have been fat shamed, and that's not good. But I really don't think changing a Roald Dahl book that was written back in the 40s, 50s, whenever it was, is really going to change that. And I do think it's a useful learning tool. And I think if you start trying to censor it or trying to censor what was, you lose this historical perspective. In my opinion,
this is what. Look at this. Facebook user, so I'm not sure who this is, to be honest. But would you like to read it, Neil?
The unelected people who are in control of what we say, see, and do are ironically just as bad as people who burned books in the 1930s.
It's the same. To me, this is Berlin in the 30s, the book burning. This, to me, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Let's see what Asa's saying in America. Television radio, it's the National Broadcasting Network of Canada. It was concerning language that is politically correct and not so. Comes the man who Trudeau classically said the trucker, they brought I watched a fascinating debate recently, and they were talking about control of the media. And the premise was, do you trust the media? And this was held I think in Toronto or Montreal. And there were some brilliant speakers. I mean, all of them were mighty brain boxes, but they said, you understand that when you want to destroy someone, you bring in all the tropes. And so when the truckers were protesting in Canada, they said, yes.
My daughter was there when that was happening. Yeah.
And they said, they're right wing. Many of them are Nazis. They're anti-Semitic, forgetting to mention that one of the leaders of this protest was Jewish. Because it doesn't fit the narrative. It's much easier to just lump everything together. Oh, they hate homosexuals. They're anti-Semitic. They're Nazis. No. Hang on. Why are there people there with their children? Why are they having barbecues? They had a legitimate beef. And then what Trudeau did to them was a disgrace. We won't get into that. Right. So Sen's making a good point here. What about the Fat Controller and Thomas the Tank Engine? Humpty Dumpty. Interestingly, Alec Baldwin, I'm saying nothing because it's was going to trial. Alec Baldwin was in the live action version of Thomas the Tank Engine, and he insisted, yes, he was, Alec Baldwin, of all people. And he insisted that the character was renamed and the word fat was taken out of the script because he was a little bit portly at the time. All right. And his weight goes up and down like a yo-yo. And it was called the either the controller or the big controller or the grand controller. But the word, there was nothing about his set. So that's what he did with that. Here we go. Liz Saul, perhaps you'd like to read. Oh, we both disappeared.
I remember an infomercial about artistic license on TV in the 90s where the baddie was being arrested, the Bill style. I remember this as well, Liz. He said, "Get your hands off me, you master policeman." The infomercial went on to explain that programs such as the Bill needs to be realistic, although it was fiction, because it's drama based on real life. Yes, get off me, you rapscallion. These handcuffs don't do smart. So it was that kind of
You
thing.
are a ne'er-do-well, sir, and you will accompany me to the station of police.
Waffly waffle, that's not real.
The point about it is, and this is a bit of a sweeping statement, but I feel it's true. If you're not kept, I won't be here because I'll be dead, but you're going to build generations who, if the wind changes direction, they're going to have a nervous breakdown. They're not going to be prepared for anything. Life is tough. Life can be very, very rough. And you can't walk around in cotton wool the whole time. We all try to protect our kids. You try to protect your daughter. I try and protect my 4 kids. But it's the real world out there. The real world. And eventually you take the training wheels off their bicycle and off they go into the real world. And that's it. You can't act as though everything's going to offend them because this is just not how the world works. It's just not. Look at America. Yeah, welcome to America. They're so sensitive. They're oversensitive. That's the problem. I'm hearing myself on your speaker, Neil. You're coming out. I'm coming out on your speaker, I believe, because I can hear it.
I can't hear that.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. Okay. What have we got here? Oh, we just seen that. Liz Saul. I said similar to Neil the other day. I'm concerned that the current generation of older teens, early 20s, are not streetwise. They're not streetwise. I haven't got a clue. Elizabeth Green, it's the new global pandemic. I'll give you a stupid example. I was with one of the kids. We were having lunch. We were talking about panto. And I said how stupid some of my scenes were. Because the scenes that I were in, some of them was just, and this was when I was doing Aladdin with Gary Wilmot and the whole crew. And John Yates can hear me coming out on your speaker as well.
How about now? I think we might have fixed it.
That's way better. It's gone. Thank you. Producer Ken. Where is he now? Anyway, here's the thing. Well,
he's drunk in Australia at the moment. I've seen photo evidence.
He's on walkabout. So here's the thing. It's back again. Jeez. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So in the scenes where there's just me and somebody else, some other policeman or something stupid, and the curtain comes down because they're doing a sea change, right? And the orchestra would pick up diddly ding 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 ding, and I was saying this to the kids, and he looked at me and he went, "Well, that's racist." I went, "It's Aladdin. It's set in China. We're meant to be in Peking Town Square. Obviously, we're not because we're in Woking or somewhere, Guildford. I don't know where it was. And why is it racist? Well, that's casually racist." I said, "Jesus, it's a scene change. It's a panto. It's not racist." To go.
Isn't that a bit like the argument where when the
musical
prince,
sting?
When the prince kissed the Disney princess, is it in Sleeping Beauty that it wasn't consensual?
It was right. It was right.
Remember that one?
She was unconscious, and he took her. Jesus Christ! He took advantage of her because she was asleep, and he snogged her.
And nobody believes in consent more than me, but that is ridiculous. It's when you get good ideas and the pendulum swings too far in the opposite direction, if you know what I mean. It starts off as a good idea, but the pendulum swings too far.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions, isn't it? The pendulum. I keep talking about this a lot. And it's a concern because the pendulum has gone in one direction to the point of lunacy. Originally, I get it. You don't want the black and white minstrel show on TV. Of course you blooming don't. Do you want people doing blackface? No. Any more than I'd want people putting on large noses and payases and walking around pretending to be Jewish. I wouldn't want that either. I get that. You don't want people yelling out the P word in the street. You don't want that. You don't want the N word. You don't want it in conversation. But you can't rewrite Harper Lee to Kill a Mockingbird. You can't rewrite it because then it won't have the impact. You won't understand what the author was trying to say. And the point of it, it's no good. The Yahoos in Kill a Mockingbird go, I say, you chaps. Doesn't make any sense. And the other thing I was saying on Talk TV was this. I said, you've got to contextualize it. It's okay, apparently, for Chris Rock, Eddie Murphy, any of those guys to do stand-up, and every other word is the N word. That's okay. If you got up and I got up to do it as middle-aged, middle-class white guys, we'd be castigated. We've had to accept that. It's okay. Because if you're black and you want to do that, fair enough. But it's not within our province to use it any more than.
I agree. And many comedians.
The only way I would come back with that, and I didn't have the chance to say it on Saturday, was this. When I used to go and see Jackie Mason, or you go and see David Baddiel, or you go and I've forgotten his name. The guy I'm going to see, I'm absolutely a huge fan of, and it's gone right out of my head. He used to play a character called Lee Nelson. When they're doing Jewish gags, it's okay. They're Jewish. They can do it. I can do Jewish gags. It's okay.
I love Jackie Mason.
Jackie Mason to come on and do it 2 hours of taking the piss out of us. It's hilarious because we get it. So that's all right. Asa Don Brown is saying that Gone with the Wind has been cancelled. Well, how can that be? Wow. Esther Ray. Oh, hi, Esther. Esther Ray, how lovely. What about the 7 people of restricted growth? my friend Lloyd, when somebody says, oh, I'm not happy, and he goes, well, which one of them are you?
I've said that to people. They really don't like it.
Liz Saul, she's just being greedy. I can do Jewish Indian gags thanks to my heritage. That'd be fantastic. That's hilarious. What do we got here? Facebook user. Okay. Like you said on TV, it's all about context. That is something that bots and these daft human bots don't understand. They also don't understand subtleties like irony, and they don't get aluminium and bronzery either. Liz is saying, I think the echo's gone. Has it? Finally. What do we got here? What's this, Neil?
Elizabeth Green, don't you dislike autocorrect? I'm typing on my phone at work and I always seem to make a typing error on this forum. Autocorrect. If you look up Google autocorrect fails, they're very, very funny.
They are brilliant, aren't they? Americans don't get panto, Elizabeth,
or irony,
or bronzery, or aluminium. They really don't get irony at all. It's fantastic. So when I do my show in Los Angeles, I rewrite the show completely because there's no point in being on it, because they'll just sit there and go, what? So don't get panto. It's very interesting. When the fabulous Henry Winkler came over, and he was working with my mate Bobby Davro as Captain Hook, the great Henry Winkler, huge fan. And when he arrived at rehearsals, he was incredibly nervous because to him, in his head as an American, and I get this, it was like he was playing Shakespeare or Ibsen or Chekhov. And he was really nervous getting it right and the motivation. And Bobby was just saying, Henry, it's panto. You could go out there and burp, clean that up, and the audience will give you a standing ovation because they love you. It's panto. Go out, have fun. And the moment after the first few shows, Henry Winkler, I'm a huge fan of, brilliant guy, wonderful interviewee as well. The moment he realized it wasn't Shakespeare, but you're just having fun, he loved it. Blooming loved it. It was, they just had it. Yeah, here's the thing. They don't, American, that's why they like Benny Hill. Yes, they thought Benny Hill was satire.
Really?
When I lived in America, I swear to God, they say, we just love that Benny Hill. He's so satirical. He's not satirical at all. It's Cherry Gilliam and the rest of the Hills Angels running around in not much, and everyone's having a marvelous time. Well, it was what it was. Americans don't get Cockney rhyme slang either. Why on earth would they? What's Sen saying here? Would you like to read this as we've disappeared?
Sure. Oh, if we delete all of these references from time gone by, then we will have no point of reference, and I dare say what lessons would have been learned. You can be offended, sure, but being offended doesn't make you right. There's comedy for the sake of laughing. There's comedy which is blatantly made to be offensive. I don't mind hearing a joke that might take the mickey out of Turks, but then given my rich mix of DNA, does that mean I should be offended across the board? Jokes, and you have to write the rest of that sentence.
I don't know what the rest says. Can't see it. So sorry. Now, what have we got? I urge you. What's this? I urge you to watch the Monty Python sketch. Did they see the future looming all those years ago? Don't know what that is. I don't know what that sketch was, Ramsey. Yeah, it's interesting. By the way, our head of production at Men's Radio and Women's Radio is the wonderful Melis, who is Turkish. And we want to send our love and best wishes to her. I had a long conversation with her this morning. Melis, we send you all our very, very best. You've been a pivotal member of our team, virtually since day one. Well, since day one, actually. And everybody that she knows in Turkey, well, lucky no one's been killed. No one's been killed, no one's been injured. But everybody she knows has suffered damage or knows directly somebody who has suffered that. It is devastating out there. Devastating. So we send our love and very best wishes to head of production Melis and her husband as well. There we go. It's, you see, the thing is this. If you come at it not screaming and shouting and just want to have the conversation, we can have a conversation like this as grown-ups. As grown-ups. It's not affecting anyone's mental health. We're having a conversation and looking at it. But I say, and this is just my view, that all of this screaming and shouting and cancelling is affecting people's mental health in a very, very detrimental way. In a very detrimental way. And the conversation has been hijacked by a tiny minority. And I want to understand why they're all so scared to offend a tiny minority of the population. Why is that? What is
I don't know.
The Sam Smith thing is ludicrous. He turns up at
I still can't believe what you said about
the
Steve
Brits
Allen.
looking like a DFS sofa.
I didn't know Steve Allen had been fired. I just thought his contract wasn't renewed, and I thought he was just deciding to leave because he'd been there ages. I honestly didn't know that. Where's he going to go?
Decided to leave. Where would he go? Where will he go? Well, if we could afford him, I'd have him here in a heartbeat, but I can't. But he'll go to Talk TV. Because at Talk TV, with respect, there's certain presenters whose ratings are not good. I've seen the figures. Leave it at that. They shall remain nameless. Replace it with Steve Allen. Boom. Happy days. Well, he won't go to Times Radio, will he? He won't go to Times Radio because that's not the sort of thing. Sending best wishes to all those affected by the ongoing earthquakes in Turkey and Syria and all those with family and friends there. Thank you, Ramsey. Absolutely right.
I think LBC are going to lose a hell of a lot of listeners.
They will,
really do.
All of that lot will go. All of that lot will completely go. Empty cannons make the loudest noise. Absolutely right, Dave Sleet. Always good to hear from Dave Sleet there. It's like, and the point I was making, I interrupted myself because I'm an idiot, is this about the pendulum. The pendulum has swung to a degree that is dangerous and, quite frankly, in some instances, absolutely bonkers. There, I've said it. Eventually, like all things in life, the pendulum comes back. What you want it to be is central, so we can all just get on with our lives. What I fear. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened. What I fear greatly is the pendulum will swing to an extreme. Nobody wants that. But it will, because I think there are so many angry people who are utterly peed off with a lot of this nonsense. Some of it is valid. Some of it is just self-obsessed narcissism. And if that pendulum goes the other way, the pushback will be horrible. And that's what's scary. That's what's scary. What that pushback could, I stress, could be. Ramsey says this, Neil. Okay, I'll jump in. It seems that media that relies on advertisers is
you wanted me to read it? Sorry.
Well, kind of, yes. That was kind of the clue. But just go ahead now. Now you've spotted
it's sensitive to causing offence to them for fear of reduced income. Well, yes, they're not going to piss the advertisers off. And if I will say also Ramsey, a media organisation, owns a massive part of the market, they're not going to want anything to change. You know, they're going to want Cameron making as much money as possible. So they're going to pander to the advertisers every time.
Of course they will, because they're commercial radio. They are commercial radio. Dave Sleet says journalism is dying, killed by the age of opinion. Damn right.
Well, that's quite a sweeping statement, Dave.
Well, he's not that wrong, is he? Is he that wrong?
I was watching Alf Garnett the other day, not slightly offended, but couldn't stop laughing. Yeah, I used to find him funny as well. Sue Sleet, afternoon, all listening in stereo as David is listening in another room. I agree the pendulum is swinging too far and too fast. It always does. It goes
Sue,
back
we
in
send
the
our very best
direction.
to you. We hope you're having a good day.
Indeed,
and we hope that hope your boy's having a good day as well. And then we've got, what have we got here? Proper journalism is dying, sadly. Here's the question. It comes back to the thing that I was talking about that I was watching the other day, this huge debate. And it's this. Do you trust the media? Do you trust the mainstream media? Ask yourself that question. Do you trust?
Should we take a poll?
I'd be fascinated on people's views. Do you? I'm not saying whether I do or whether I don't. I'm asking.
Stick a yes or no in the chat. All of those listening. Just a simple question.
So the question is: Do you trust
the mainstream media? Yeah, I'll make a banner out of it.
Yeah. Do you trust the mainstream media? First answer in. No, I don't. John, why not? Why don't you trust it? I've got my reasons. What I would argue. Ruthie Siegel, listening in France. Ruthie, how lovely to hear from you. Ruthie Siegel, known Ruthie for many a moon. Lived in France now for I don't know how long, ages. No, I don't trust him, says Ruthie Siegel. Interesting. John is saying I don't trust them as far as I could throw them, says John Yates. And this one, Neil.
Far cheaper to hire a talking head with opinions than hire a subject matter expert with a nuanced discussion. I'm taking that as a no then, Ramsey.
And then it's all doom. It's Kimmy Lashmar saying it's all doom, gloom and scaremongering. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And then we have to look at how did we in 2023 arrive at the situation where many of us don't trust the mainstream media, which affects us in many different ways, but it affects us for sure. Azadon Brown, loving this, coming in from the USA. Absolutely freaking not. Damn right. Here's the thing. How did we get there? When I was growing up a million years ago, the newscaster would come on the BBC or ITV, read the news. We took the news as gospel. He gave us the news. We listened to the news. That was it. But now, any gob on a stick will come on any subject and talk absolute trash, and the host won't say.
But remember what we talked about a minute ago. It's about market share. So the news essentially now is to entertain you. It's to entertain you. Their stories, their narratives, they're to entertain you. Good stories, bad stories, generally bad. If it bleeds, it leads. But they're generally, it is to entertain you.
Look at this from your
I
mate
went to
Liz.
a comedy night last week. The compare was hilarious. I must give him a mention, actually. He made very edgy jokes. Everyone laughed loudly. However, he had to start them up by saying, if you're easily offended, leave now.
That's right.
Yeah.
Leave now.
A guy called Rudy Liquid. Have you heard of him?
No, I haven't.
He is brilliant. Absolutely genius. Headline was a guy called Dan Antopolsky, who was fantastic as well.
Ramsey says, no, intelligent people can distinguish from someone who knows their subject, and those opinions for hire people you see all the time. But you think, why are they there? Why are they there? Because they talk, some of them, absolute garbage. And you really want to say, I don't want to be rude, but could you get some professional help? Because I think you're nuts. And I say that as the co-founder of a mental health radio station. You're clearly unbalanced. I don't mean not having a balanced view. I mean, I don't think you're well. Lovely Demisa says this. Would you read it, Neil? Be so kind.
Whose opinion? No one's asked for mine. Has anyone asked for yours? Exactly who's being asked? No one. We're just being told. Reminds me, thinking about young people being berated, how the tiny minority's negative behavior apparently evidences all the young people. I refuse to be told what to think. Yeah, and you can't put all the young people. I was having a pint last night in my local pub, and there was a typical, what you would call young person. He's a young man. He's about 19, 20. Lovely young man. And he's really clued up. And we were discussing this, like, what's it like for this generation? What's it like for our generation? And we were discussing it. And the majority of young people do think like him. And they're not stupid. They're not stupid at all. And it's good to have these open conversations. It really is.
They dumb the whole thing down. They dumb it down and they manipulate. Dave Sleep, the tub. Now, wait a minute. It's trust. Oh, hang on. Don't tell me, Dave. We had such an interesting when we met. No, it's trust, understanding, and belief. Is that right? Please tell me I've got it right, because I was so impressed with the tub. There's a thing called the TUB, the tub rating. If you're listening on Deluxe Radio, is so low. 24-hour opinion broadcasting and not 24 hours news. No, it's opinions. 24 hours of opinions. Françoise Pascal, bon après-midi. No trust
from mainstream media. They report false news and try to confuse the public. I hate them with a passion. Powerful words, Francois.
Well, yeah, but they brought it upon themselves. In the old days, you say, "Oh, well, Francois, what are you comment? What are you doing?" But no, they brought it upon themselves because you sit there and you have this stuff spoon-fed to you, and you think, "I'm an adult. Stop it."
And remember, they're all competing with each other as well. Yeah. So they're going to, if one goes shocking, the other one's going to have to go even more shocking. As a radio journalist, says Liz, we don't have to put the bulletin for opinion. We simply have to report the facts. Most days it's a 3 or 4 minute bulletin. There are so many ways to consume the news, and the internet is infinite, and not everyone has the common sense to distinguish fact from fiction. And that can be dangerous.
Lisa James
says, I'm sick to death of being told what to do and what to say. Why didn't the MSM give a full story from 8 years ago about Ukraine? If people did, it would open their eyes. Two sides of a very strong story.
Oh, yes.
This generation and to come are brainwashed.
Yeah. Oh, I got the tub rating right. Trust, understanding, believability. And that's what a tub rating is. Isn't it interesting, though? You see, the internet is infinite. Look, that poor woman they found in the river.
Oh, God.
Nicola Bulley, right? Walking a dog found in the river. I don't know this person. I'm never going to meet this person. I don't know the family. I don't know the facts because I wasn't there. Every genius in the world suddenly has a theory. That's number one. Why? You've watched 2 episodes of CSI Miami or something 20 years ago.
It's going to be the partner. Watch out for the partner.
And you're a forensic genius. You're not a forensic genius. No. Leave it to the experts. You may or may not like the police. You may like them. You may not trust them. Up to you. Your choice. But one thing's for sure: if somebody's gone missing, they're not going to try and twist it to their own advantage. They want to find the person in whatever state that might be, and they want to resolve the issue. Of course they do. There's nothing for them not to do so. But everybody suddenly, so this was one side of it, say, I don't like, partner looks shifty. I mean, what a horrible thing to say. Come on.
He was absolutely mortified. And I do not think he had anything remotely to do with it. He was absolutely, and the pain he's going through at the moment, I cannot even begin to imagine.
And then there was, I posted a short conference that the two leading police officers gave, and a woman chief inspector, forgive me, I don't remember her name, read out a statement from the family of how the media, and they named, the family named the newspapers and the broadcast media in detail of what they'd done, and wouldn't leave them alone because they're vultures. They are vultures, and they are disgusting. Now, Francoise raises a very interesting point. What if they don't have common sense? Then what? Well, you know what, Francoise? This is my point. Give them a driving license and give them a vote. What if they don't have common sense? Well, there you go. Answered your own question. Oh, and this Leslie, Ian Jones, I'm sorry, I really agree with you on this. And I'm no Putin apologist, and I'm not a Putin fan. I want to make that clear. The more the EU and NATO pushed up to Russia's borders, the more someone like Putin would react. We're just lucky he ran down his military and that he's in charge, not somebody. Well, he is very capable. My question is this. Russia, after America, probably parallel with China, has more military ability and more military equipment than you can shake a stick at. If they wanted to wipe out Ukraine, it would take them about 12 minutes. That's it. It would take them 12 minutes to do it if they wanted to. And it wouldn't involve troops. They could wipe the country off the face of the earth if they wanted to. 10 minutes, it's gone. So there's more to it. Anyway, not to even mention the money laundering and God knows what else is going on. Although Zelensky, hero, to be honest, but like all heroes, flawed. Liz, sadly, would you like to read this, Neil?
I will. Liz, sadly, the vast majority, Ramsey says, Liz, the vast majority, sadly, cannot distinguish fact from fiction. You don't have to look at the state of US politics to see how people's opinions are being manipulated. And it's happening here too. Oh, yeah. Check out what Cambridge Analytica have been doing too. Yeah, I'm a little bit leery about that. I'm not entirely sure on that one.
Well, it's a whole rabbit hole we could go down, but it would take a whole show. Lisa Jane said, I think the police made so many mistakes in the beginning. We don't know. We don't. Yeah, I mean, you'd think maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know. I'm not forensic. I'm not a policeman. I don't have the courage. I don't have the ability to be a policeman. I think most of what they do is terrific. Some of what they do is diabolical. It's like everything in life. You know, there's good and bad. But what is not fair is when you've got a tiny minority of very bad apples, you can't taint everybody with that. It's just not fair.
No.
It's not fair. You can't say every policeman's a rapist. You can't go around saying every policeman's a rapist. Every policeman hates women. I mean,
no.
Yeah, it's not. And Leslie and Jones, correct. Meanwhile, China watches. I doubt whether she will invade Taiwan, but one of the offshore islands of the Chinese coast might be in danger. Totally so, because my point is much larger than that. While the West disintegrates, while America ceases to become the leading power in the world, which it has, we won't admit it. While America and Europe worry about nouns, pronouns, and Sam Smith, do you think China's worried? Nah, they're getting on with conquering the world. They're getting on with their agenda. Nothing's going to stop them. Do I think they're right? Do I like the way they behave? No, I don't. But they don't put up with any crap. I don't like their methods. I don't like communism. I don't like totalitarianism. But they are laughing. They're laughing at us. Of course they are. Because they're just getting on. They're just getting on with their agenda. And during lockdown and the pandemic, what did they do? With everybody with their electric cars. What did they do? They bought up most of the minerals in Africa. Just bought it up. Why? Because then they control it. Interesting point here. Neil?
Canada and America, says Asa Don Brown, are both dealing with a very serious psychosis. It's a global phenomenon. What do you mean by that? You mean just in their general mindset? And Canada? See, I thought Canada
totally. Canada's the worst. Canada's worse than America. under Trudeau. It's worse.
Really?
It's
See, I
absolutely worse.
thought Canada was much more forward-thinking than America. When I was there, much more.
Canada was like North America with manners. I've always described it. I've spent time in Canada.
North
They're
America
charming.
without Americans.
They're charming. But here's the thing, which people don't understand, is the government in Canada owns, I mean literally, I don't mean metaphorically, I mean owns a lot of the media outlets. It's owned by the government. You tell me how that's a free press. It's not. You're a spokesperson for the government, except you're pretending that you're a free press. You're not a free press at all. Not only are China laughing at us, I suspect your cameras there are made in China. Everything's made in China. Of course it is. It's all made in China. Wait till the cars. They're going to have a huge problem. And the motor industry is going to have a huge problem because, you know, I'm a petrol head. I look at all the stuff that's coming out. The new Chinese cars are fantastic. They look fantastic. The level of tech they have is fantastic. The interiors are terrific, right? You get so much bang for your buck, and the prices will blow VW and blow BMW and blow Mini out of the water. So they're going to have real problems once the Chinese, if they can, start to sell their stuff here, because it'll be a tsunami, because their stuff is good and the pricing is right, because they know what they're doing. Francois, sadly, common sense is not that common. Oh, beautifully said. I'm not putting it. I'll put it up. I'll just leave it there. You can read it. I'm leaving it there. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. It's just like we're sleepwalking over the cliff. We're sleepwalking over the cliff. Got ourselves to blame. We've got ourselves to blame because everyone's terrified of saying anything.
Which is why conversations like this are important. And I think it's good to remember that we've got our own kind of internal guidance system, if you like, and we don't have to get caught in the furore and the loudness of the media if we choose not to. We don't have to.
But Neil,
we can choose what we give our attention to.
The point is this, right? This is a live show. It's unedited. It's uncensored. All your comments are coming up live on my screen. They're coming up live. We put them all up, unless it's like really rude and stupid. I'm not going to put it up. Or it's or it's just a hack. Yeah, something's dumb. But we put all your comments up. We have the ability to have a completely reasoned conversation. That's all I ever wanted men's radio to be. Just a conversation, not an interview. Neil knows when we were talking about her, and I said, no, it's not an interview. When we get our guests on, it's not an interview, it's a conversation.
Very much.
Let's find out about them.
Yeah, much more interesting.
Let's find out about them. It's not the BBC. I'm looking at the next one. I'm looking at the next. I'm not listening to you. I'm looking at my, basically I'm looking at my clipboard. Don't want that. I want a conversation. So no one here is offended. And if you were, you would have the space to come on and say, Neil, Russ, I'm offended, and I'm offended because what? And we'd talk about it. We wouldn't need to scream about it. We wouldn't need to cancel each other. We could just say, okay. If we thought we needed to apologize, we'd be the first to apologize. Or we could do that old-fashioned thing, which I always grew up on. You shake hands and you say, we'll agree to disagree. Now let's go and get a coffee, or let's get a beer or a glass of wine, or go off and have a cigar. That's okay. We're not drones. We don't have to all agree on everything. That's ridiculous. We're allowed to have different opinions.
I don't think that's even desirable.
I realized that with my third part. Oh, Francois. Oh, you teasers. You teasers. Well, this is right. This is what we were saying. You, Russ Kane, caused chaos. Well, I hardly think chaos. And a TV blackout recently when you said something prohibited on a list. Well done. It's real here. Thank you. Well, it is real. All right, here we go. Asa Don Brown. Would you like to read this, Neil?
Absolutely. As a Canadian, Asa says, I can confirm the majority of the media is state-owned. The ideologies and perceptions that are being spoken of today are looming over the Canadian culture.
This is interesting. Here we go from Sue Sleet up in Fife in Scotland, right by the beach. Beautiful. One day, Sue, I'm going to come up and drive you and Dave Sleet mad. Just because I just love to come and walk on the beach, to be perfectly honest, and get away from everything. As someone who was employed as a police officer in the 70s, I'm always saddened to hear of bad apples. It appears that the changes in recruitment have made it easier for them to be employed. Well, it sucks, doesn't it? We don't want it. We don't want it because we want to have trust. And the next question is not only do you trust the mainstream media, do you trust anybody? Do you look up to anybody anymore? We used to have state, religion, MPs, and we'd look at them and we'd go, wow, that's an MP. Fabulous. That's a policeman. Ooh. And we'd abide by it. Now,
perhaps, though, it's a good opportunity to learn to trust ourselves.
Learn to trust your little voice. And it's, they coined the phrase years ago, the silent majority, and it's got worse. We are not just the silent majority because we can't. In those days, and I've just thought about this, see if you agree with my chain of thought. In those days, if it was the silent majority, it's because you couldn't be asked to just go and say something. You just said, oh, let them get on with this nonsense, okay? Now, it's a silent majority because you're too scared to say anything. Because you will be cancelled. Your career will go down the toilet in 30 seconds. Well, Lisa, I'll put it up. I don't want to get into it with just 4 minutes to go in the show. Lisa says this: I'm concerned about how many young, fit male refugees are coming to the UK, all around the perfect for fighting, perfect age for fighting this. What is the real reason for the government putting them up in hotels? Where are all the mothers and the children? Well, not here. People seem to forget. Sorry, Neil, please. Go on.
People seem to forget they have a co-presenter. Sorry, they have the ability to change
up
or switch off.
Echo boy.
I couldn't resist it. Sorry. People seem to forget they have the ability to change channels or switch off if they don't like what's being said or offended by it. Stop this cancel culture. We're not all offended. We don't want to dislike what's being said. We don't have to listen. Exactly, Leslie. Cancel culture closes down conversation and debate. I wanted a little laughing emoji at the top because we've got all lots of different ones, but we haven't got a laugh one yet. So
it's part of the mental health crisis. Is excellent point from Elizabeth Green in Manhattan, New York. Is part of the mental health crisis not having a voice? Yeah.
Or not believing that you have a voice, or not believing that you have a right to a voice.
And feeling excluded.
Quite possibly.
Feeling excluded, feeling marginalized, feeling unloved, feeling unwanted. I mean, you could go on about that. Elizabeth's point is a cracking one. I trust me, my wife and son. No politician, as if you ask them a direct question like, what's a woman? Well, don't even go. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. I can't argue with you, Ian, Leslie. Yeah, if you can't answer what's a woman, where are we with that?
Lisa James says, I lost trust to everyone after my phone was hacked for years and private investigations.
Oh my God!
Oh, good God!
Blimey, should we know why that? None of our business. I'm not going to ask. None of our business. Wow, what a horrible thing! Ooh, what a horrible thing! That's ghastly. Your phone was hacked for years, Lisa James. If you ever want to talk about it on the show, you have an open invitation. That's the sort of thing that we go, what the heck is that? And also because, thank God, 99.9% of the people watching and listening all over the world, it's never happened to. So when it happens to someone, to actually hear firsthand the impact that has on your life, wowza. Wowza. Record numbers of you watching and listening today. Thank you.
It's brilliant. Figures are fantastic. Much. Thank you. Can we have one laughter emoji, please? Because I want to kind of get the set.
Oh, a laughter emoji. I don't know. I don't know how to do it.
Oh, one of our lovely listeners stick one up.
One of our laughter listeners. Just put up a laughter emoji. That would be absolutely delightful. Neil, it's a joy. Neil is feeling unloved today.
I'm not
No,
feeling
he's
unloved.
not. He did a cracking stand-up yesterday. He's just probably a
Yeah, I
bit
did.
tired. He did.
I'm not feeling unloved. Just a little
That's
hungover.
it. Neil and I will be back Wednesday, same
Really
time,
good debate
12
today.
noon.
Thank you.
I
Wednesday
loved
it
it.
is.
Conversation.
Wednesday it is.
It was charming. See you Wednesday.
Love you,
Until
hug
then,
you, squeeze you, everyone. Take care.
I don't know what you did. Oh, John Yates. Just got time to squeeze that in. Yeah.
Thank you, John. You're a good man.
John. Take
Spoiling
care,
me.
everybody. Stay out of trouble. Stay safe. Bye.
See you Wednesday. Good afternoon.